Nikki Haley, former U.S. ambassador to the UN. She's also the chair of the Hudson Institute. And she has her podcast. It's Nikki Haley Live on SiriusXM. So great to have you here in the city and on set with us. There's so much happening. Let's start with Jake Sullivan, who said this today on MSNBC about the hostages.
We are wary about making predictions or promises, but this is close. And with enough pushing from the outside mediators and the commitment of Israel and Hamas, we can get it done. Israel is ready to do this deal. So the final piece of the puzzle, from my perspective, is for Hamas ultimately to come forward with a commitment on the release of hostages in that first phase of a multi-phase deal.
Let me just open the door and let you talk about that.
100 hostages living in brutal conditions. Israel has always said, we will work on a deal, but the hostages have to be part of it. And, you know, you see what's happening at the United Nations. They want to push Israel into a deal, but they don't want to talk about hostages. Priority number one. We have to get it. They've suffered long enough. I think that any country that fights this, pushes back, you know, there is no basis for that. But Iran is weak. Let's move while we can. Let's get those hostages home. Iran doesn't have a leg to stand on.
The thing that Hamas has said is that the IDF, the Israeli Defense Forces, have to be out of Gaza entirely. And Netanyahu's saying, forget it. That's not going to happen.
They're not going to leave the hostages.
And
we're
waiting on Hamas this entire time.
No, I mean,
crank up the pressure.
The hostages are in Gaza. Israelis are not going to leave those hostages in Gaza. They're going to stay until they get them home. This is not about compromising with Hamas. Hamas has no ability to compromise at this point. They either give us the hostages or they don't. Their decision. Iran can't back them up anymore. We need to make this push hard.
Before we go to another part of the world, you told us a moment ago that Syria is an opportunity.
Huge opportunity.
How?
It is, you know, can't take your eyes off on it. But think about what happened. You have Iran that was really pummeled by Israel with the defeat of Hamas and Hezbollah. You've got Russia that's distracted with Ukraine. Turkey saw an opening, and all of a sudden they're working with HTS to bring down Assad. A great day for Syrians that Assad is gone. He was the butcher of Damascus. But what it really means is we have to watch HTS. We see them as a terrorist group. But Turkey wants Ukraine to win. So the best thing we need, what does Russia want? Those two bases. They have a naval base and they have an air base. This is the time for the U.S. to work with Turkey to tell Russia, okay, you want those bases? What are we going to do with Ukraine? How are we going to settle this? That is the opportunity to be had. Also, the opportunity is Iran got all of the weapons to Israel by way of Lebanon. So this opens up the Middle East in a way that we could really have peace. We don't know if that's going to work, but the U.S. needs to be talking with Turkey, our Arab allies, put pressure on Iran, and above all things, if you were ever going to take out the nuclear production sites, now is the time to do it. Turkey wants to do it. Israel wants to do it. The U.S. would want to do it, and some of the Arab countries would want to do it.
So then does that get us a step closer to a possible resolution in Ukraine?
I think if we use these military bases as leverage, and you see where Russia is, I mean, they are looking at 50% of Russia's budget is going to military operations. I mean, Putin is feeling weakened. He just put all this time and effort into Syria. All that has gone away. They are seeing deaths. I mean, hundreds of thousands of deaths that they've had. Putin's looking for an out, but he wants a good deal. But he really wants these bases. Let's use these bases as leverage to get him to back off of Ukraine.
Let's talk about the Trump time now. The budget defense is being talked about a lot right now. We can put on the screen the budget for the fiscal year 2023, and you can see the outlays, and it's substantial. It's just short of $1 trillion here. Here's Ro Khanna, a progressive Democrat from California, who says, you know what, we might need to think about this, but he has his perspective. Watch.
I have said also that the Democrats shouldn't just reflexively say we're not going to work with DOJ on anything. Instead, we should focus his efforts on places where there actually is waste, like the Department of Defense, which is 56% of the budget.
Everybody is coming at this from their own perspective. Dana and I were sitting here on the air yesterday, and Speaker Johnson said the $10 billion for the farmers will be included. And that's a lot of money. But when Musk and Ramaswamy are talking about cutting $2 trillion, we went to the computer and $10 billion is 0.5%.
0.05.
0.5. 0.5% of $2 trillion. How are we going to get there, and what's realistic?
Well, you're not going to get there by Republicans on this spending spree, which is what they're doing. I mean, learn the lessons from before. You didn't just win an election. You won an election and a mandate that they expect Republicans to lead. That means getting your budget under control. Do we want to see stronger defense spending? Yes, but before you do any of that, let's focus on priorities. Number one, we should be focused on batteries and chips. That's going to be really important for what we need to do in defense going forward. Second thing is we want to make sure we get any national security waivers that we can so that we get the bureaucracy out of the way and things start to move. Third, we want to make sure we build up our workforce. We have to skill them to make sure that they can build up these new, going into this new military situation that we're going into. And then look at the procurement. The procurement is messed up. It always has been. So the big guys win and the little guys never get anything. We need to get all of that out of the way. When you start to do those things, and focus on what wars of the future would look like instead of wars of the past, that's when you can save money in the defense budget. But not only that, right now, 5 million federal employees. Do we need that many people in government? We don't. Go to the payroll of every agency and say, do we really need all these people? There are places to cut. It's going to hurt. It's not going to be easy, but it's going to make us stronger in the end.
Nikki Haley, thanks for being here today.
Great to see you. Merry Christmas.
It's going to be interesting in 2025. Hope you come back and we'll go through it again.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Nice to see you again.